Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we are doing the Torah portion for this coming week, and we're going to be reading Genesis 32:3 to 36:43. And in this one, just like we saw last week, we saw Jacob leaving his land, and this one we see Jacob going back to his homeland, because that's what our wonderful Creator told him to do, and he listened, but he didn't completely listen, because we last saw when he left, he was running from his brother who wanted to kill him. And now he was told to go back there. And it says here in Genesis 32:8 that Yaakov became greatly afraid and distressed. Now he tried to devise a plan of how he was going to approach his brother to win his favor. He sent his flock and his servants in groves to try to offer his brother presents before he actually met him face to face, so he wouldn't kill him. But we also see that his brother was coming with 400 men. So this is why Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. But he didn't completely listen to our wonderful Creator, because he was told that I will be with you. And I am telling you to go back, so go back and you will be taken care of. Well, he does go back and he meets his brother, and all is well. His brother welcomes him, hugs him, and all is well. But before he goes back, we see here, he sends his wives over a stream. He sends his servants to go meet his brother with wonderful gifts. But he's left alone. It says here in Genesis 32:24 that he was left alone in the middle of the desert. Again, so he has this. Now remember, everybody, this is the first time he's alone, probably since he came out of his home country on his way to go meet his wife and his wife's family. And that's when he heard from our wonderful Creator, and that's when he anointed that rock that we discussed a couple of weeks ago. So, and that was Jacob's ladder. But here he is again alone for probably the first time since that moment, because he went into the land, he got married to 2 wives, he had 2 maidservants, he had 11 children. And here he is again for the first time. It says he was left alone. Again, alone in the middle of the desert. All his flock, all his servants, his family, everything away from him. And what happens again? Well, again, not only this time does he hear from our wonderful Creator, but this time he actually sees him and feels him and actually wrestles with him. And he was blessed for surviving this encounter. And so then we go on to see what happens later. He settles in a land, and the land he settles in, there were other people living there. And we see here one of the people of the land that was living there, his name was Shechem, who was the son of Hamor the Havi, where he was living, takes Jacob's only daughter Dinah and rapes her, but falls in love with her supposedly and wants to marry her, so tells his father, I want to marry this girl, to go to Jacob, the girl's father, and tell her this. So Hevi goes to the girl's father and says, let your people mingle with my people, and let them become one, and let your daughters marry my sons, and my sons marry your daughters. Well, according to the scripture, Jacob only had 1 daughter at the time. But Jacob agrees to this in the name of peace, but his sons weren't as agreeable, and they were very upset that their sister would be so disgraced. So here's an interesting point now. The agreement comes to, if you want to mingle with our children and us and become one people, every male in your country has to get circumcised. And they did. Now, the political races going on here were in 2011, just about to come to 2012, where the political race is going to come on. And for those of you that look at the political race and you see these candidates and everything else, I mean, this week we see the best politician ever in the history of the world. And the best politician in the history of the world was Shechem, who raped Dinah, Jacob's son. Why was he the best politician in the world? Because it says later in the scriptures that he went to go meet his people, and he said to them in Genesis 35:21, these people are peaceful towards us. Therefore let them live in the land and do business in it. For as you can see, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives for ourselves, and we will give them our daughters. So this was Hamor and his son Shechem telling the people this. Now the people are listening to this. First of all, Jacob only had one daughter, but the people are listening to them. But then he goes on to say, the one condition is every male must get circumcised. Now, can you imagine one of the presidential candidates today standing up and saying, we can have peace with our neighbors, let's say Canada or Mexico, never having war with them, becoming one with them, but the one condition is every male among you must get circumcised. Now, this wouldn't be a problem if you go to a Jewish community because every male among them is already circumcised. But can you imagine? Every single male said yes. Now that is a politician. Now that is amazing. So every male said yes and they got circumcised. That just blows my mind. That no one rejected and said, no, I'm not going to do this. Every male got circumcised, which is unbelievable. But that wasn't good enough for Jacob's children because they were in such anger. And when this community was healing from getting circumcised, Jacob's children went in and they actually killed every male in a result of revenge. Now Jacob wasn't too happy with what they've done because they made him go back on his word and they created a lot of strife, and Jacob was worried that other communities would come and align themselves against the community of Israel. And then our wonderful Creator goes and says to Jacob in 35 of Genesis to get up and go to Bethel, and that is the house of a wonderful Creator. That is where he anointed that rock, and he tells him to go there and make another altar, and that's what he tells them. But he says here this specifically, and this is the point of this week's teaching. In 35 of Genesis 35:2 it says, then Jacob said to his household and all the others with him, get rid of foreign gods that are with you, purify yourselves and put on fresh clothes. We're going to move on to the house of our wonderful Creator, Bethel. And that's the way we need to approach him and his lands. That's the way we need to approach him in everything we do. When we go to visit him, we need to purify ourselves. We need to clean ourselves. And the way we do that is we get rid of all the foreign idols and the gods that we have around us. And we put on fresh clothes and a whole new appearance. And we get rid of all those things that we're told not to have. And that's the way, that's what we have to, that's the heart we need. That's what it must come to, and that's what we must do. And we need to remember that. Purify yourselves, put on fresh clothes, and get rid of the foreign gods. So I believe that's the message that I want to give you from this week's Torah portion. If you have any comments or questions, post them below the video. And have a great Shabbat next Shabbat. Until then, shalom, shalom.
Torah life ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.